Thank you and good evening, everyone. We appreciate your time and are especially glad anytime we get to speak with parents. And you submitted some questions in advance, but I've been told by Sarah Broberg, who's leading this meeting, that we've had plenty of other questions come in. So we're going to address a number of key topics, and then we'll turn to your questions in the chat. And again, I'm really grateful that you're with us. I'm Nancy Cable. I'm the Chancellor at UNC Asheville, and it's a real privilege to work with all of you. And we appreciate how much this is a difficult time for you, probably personally, as well as a family. These are difficult and uncertain times. But at this point, we are, after literally 3 and 4 months of planning to open with high-level health protocols for our students, for our faculty, and for our staff as an academic community. We are confident that we have an academic mission that is worthy of the work and energy and insight and intellect that your kids will bring to us. And we believe that particularly because we are a smaller scale institution compared to some of the very large
Goodwill
at the UNC system, that we have an opportunity to open and hopefully to open very safely. This too means that we are very aware of the individual requests and ideas and needs that are coming from our students and their families. And while we can't do it for 100%, we are trying to be very humane and understanding at every stage of this, so that we can open and remain open for the fall and prove that we can be among the resilient institutions of higher education in the country. So I bet you're wondering really who's in charge. Well, yes, I am the Chancellor, and I work very closely with the senior team. You will hear from several of them tonight. It also means that I'm listening to a lot of real experts. I'm listening to the leaders of the hospitals here in Asheville, both MAHEC, which is known as the Mountain Area Health Education Collaborative. I'm listening to the head of Mission Hospital. I'm listening to the governor, who is determining the readiness of the state to open for a variety of different activities. I'm listening to my supervisors, who are the University of North Carolina system leaders and the Board of Governors. It is they who are clear that they do want us to open with health and safety as the highest priority, but to return to what so many of our students need and are excited about, which is to get back in the classrooms with our faculty and to continue with their academic progress so that they do not lose time toward degree. That is one of the things that UNC Asheville, among the 17 institutions in the system, has traditionally done extremely well. So there are a lot of moving pieces here that we monitor every day. We're also watching the State Department of Health and Human Services. We're watching our Buncombe County, which is the county we're located in, Health and Human Services. And we are watching what the school systems are doing. Just earlier last week, I guess late last week, the Asheville City Schools has decided to do the first 9 weeks of K-12 education online. That's a new wrinkle in our planning, because we thought that most of our workforce would be able and willing to come to class and to be on campus, whether they're staff or their faculty. More than a few of our faculty and staff will be affected by that decision, particularly for the K-6 group. And so we work at every turn with the new information that we get that affects both our business model, but most importantly, our health and well-being as an academic community. Some of you have asked a question, and I'm going to get to this in a minute. Why would we ask our students, or why would we allow our young people to come into a university that may not have the full range of experiences? Well, I would maintain to you that, and I have 2 grown children, both of whom are college graduates. If I had college students entering college this year or continuing in their sophomore, junior, or senior year, I would want them to be in an academic community that is dealing with some of the largest challenges to our society, to our democracy, to our culture that we have had in a number of years. With Kai Campbell, our provost, insight and help, we have decided to choose 3 key areas of interest that will form how we discuss some things in some of our classes. It will certainly inform our co-curricular and student leadership activities. It will form the way in which our faculty are doing some of their teaching. These 3 themes are the upcoming election and the importance of the strength of our democracy at this moment in time. The second one is a roadmap for racial justice and working to eradicate or reduce the implications of structural racism in our communities, in this state, in the region, and of course across the globe. And the third is the COVID-19 pandemic itself. What will be its impacts on the globe, on healthcare going forward? Could it happen again? How have we handled it? Not just at UNCA, but how has the global community dealt with this? And what inequities does it reveal? This is a really good time for young people, our traditional and our non-traditional age students, our incoming first-year students, and our transfers to clearly be a part of the university. Our numbers for enrollment are holding strong. It appears we have slightly over 600 first-time first-year students who will be joining us. Most of them will have in-person classes, some will be online, and some will be what we call hybrid, where they meet in person at least once or twice in a week, and then they have the rest of their classes online. Our transfer students have exceeded our goals. We had hoped for 300. We have 312 as of this morning. These are students who bring to us a variety of different experiences, life experiences, educational experiences, and they enrich the lives of our first-time first-year students as well as all of our upper-class students. So it's a good year, despite these complications, to have your sons and daughters with us in conversation and in educational enterprises while we're together this fall, and we hope again this spring. Let me tell you that we've also been collaborating very closely with the other 5 4-year institutions, universities, and colleges in the region, and working together to adopt what now is becoming a statewide model. We think it will scale to more national attention soon. So Western Carolina, UNC Asheville, Montreat College, Mars Hill, Brevard, and Warren Wilson have all been working together since mid-April to procure the best-in-class personal protective equipment. We have been able to secure masks in good numbers for our students, also thermal sensors that will be used as a kind of handheld device to check temperatures. We have won some grant awards that we put in for a 40-person student health ambassadors group that will be peer-to-peer work with our students at all ages on our campus to ensure that everyone is following a required mask policy, a required social distancing, a required use of hand hygiene and respiratory hygiene to keep us all as safe as possible. All 6 institutions, together with really UNCA as a leader in this, I'll brag about it a bit, have been setting the protocols for what happens if we have a small outbreak on our campus. How can we tend to the needs of our students who either have been exposed and therefore are in quarantine and maybe waiting for a test result, or someone who has had a test result and will be in isolation for 12 to 14 days. We have set up the protocols for not only our students and our faculty and staff, but protocols for campus visitors, vendors who come to campus, our admissions visitors who will be coming, and so on. So we're working closely with the health authorities in the region. We're also stepping up some of our community engagement with communities of retirees, indigent communities, tutoring in the schools, which we've done for many, many years here and are very widely respected and needed for that. All those activities will be a part of what's going on. We'll talk about athletics in just a second. So we also have put in place a community expectation of requirements for all of us to stay safe. And please work with your sons and daughters to make sure that we are very clear that they will be required to wear a mask, which is, according to science and the CDC, the single most important thing we can do to protect ourselves from the spread of the virus from others, and to protect others from the spread of virus if we might have contracted it and not yet know it. We might be asymptomatic. So the unknown difficulties of this virus will be here, and we have a set of protocols that we will ask all students to abide. You may ask, how will we enforce this? Well, UNCA is a community that for decades has been, because of our scale and because of our intellectual work together, we've been a place that cares a lot about our community, that supports one another, even if we don't always agree on things. And so we believe that our students will be modeling this. If we have students who are repeat offenders of no mask, they'll be asked to leave their class. They will, if they are impudent about that request, they're likely to have the class stop until they have left and resume after their departure. So we have to be strict about these things, because reopening means that one person's health affects the health of all. And so we will be abiding these rules, and ask that you speak with your young people about that before they actually return. We've put in plexiglass in lots of places, in labs, near every podium that a faculty member could be teaching from. We've de-densified our classrooms, and Sarah Broberg and her team have put up on the coronavirus website several good videos that show you how our classrooms, how our library, how our dining hall is de-densified and is different, but regards the 6-foot social distance whenever possible. I mentioned random temperature taking, and we'll be doing that in our high traffic buildings, and spot checking in classrooms and in classroom hallways. Our faculty and our staff together have been planning for the return of our students since the time the students left the campus. Most left in mid-March, around the 13th, 14th, and 15th. We had about 300 initially stay with us who did not have a place to go home, or if they went home, they didn't have broadband. And so they stayed on our campus. This time, even if we have an outbreak, because we know the proper protocols that are CDC driven and affirmed by the hospitals who are our partners in this, we will have a rapid response team immediately coming to campus to do testing, to do contact tracing, and to make sure that all of our students are safe, and frankly, to very transparently keep our whole community informed if we do have some positive cases on campus, and to make sure that those can be protected. If we have some positive cases among our faculty, we also have protocols there for what we will do to keep those classes going, or to keep those classes moving online until the professor is able to come back. So Kai can speak a little bit to that as well. I also want to mention that you may be asking, as I've been asking of the UNC system, what metrics would prompt us to actually pivot and go back to online learning? And what would that mean for our students in the residence halls? Well, bottom line, our students in all the residence halls can continue on campus even if we had to return to online. We're waiting for the set of protocols that would be in place there as dictated by the UNC system, but we have an ability to keep going, we believe, safely, following protocols, frankly, that are hospital specific. And at MAHEC, which is our Mountain Area Health Education Group, and at Mission, there's been almost no spread over nearly 4 months of the virus in those entities. And those are the kinds of protocols that we are adopting and we are accepting and putting into place. So even if we go online for a short period or for the balance of the semester at some point, our students will be able to stay in their residence halls. And of course, our students who live in apartments close by will make those arrangements. Let me also mention that we, in addition to working with the all the six institutions in our region, we have been given tremendous access to doing some research in the name of the state's work that needs to be done. We won the grant out of all the 17 institutions to do the first comorbidity study because of the strength of our pre-med program, our science faculty, and also our health and wellness center faculty who work directly with MAHEC. So we will be the campus doing that project and also doing some other research for the state and for the region, and we're very proud of that. Let me now turn to your questions, and then I'll move it on to some of my colleagues. One of you asked, why do students and faculty need to wear masks when they are social distancing outside? I would think that they only need to wear masks indoors or if they're in groups inside. The wearing of masks inside and outside is recommended as a strong protocol from the CDC, and we have adopted it as a required position. The reason for outside is we have some chairs around campus that are not always 6 feet apart. Even if some of our faculty hold their classes, particularly in August and September, outside, it isn't always so that students have a 6-foot distance between the two of them, or between another student or even from the faculty. And so we will be requiring masks even when students are outside. They are not required when they are in their residence hall room with their roommate or of course in a single. But they are required anytime they're walking along hallways because any one of us could be one of the spreaders, and we have to make sure that does not happen. Does UNCA have access to testing capacity necessary to detect and trace an outbreak on campus of the virus on campus? How will this be conducted? We absolutely, even this morning, we secured another 1,000 tests. Now we will share those with some of our other higher education institutions. These would be administered through MAHEC. Our campus health and safety area and health and wellness center has, and our health center for our students has tests in sufficient numbers that we can handle testing students who are symptomatic. We are not just going to test any student who walks through the door unless they have symptoms that they are concerned about. That is pretty much uniform across most higher education institutions in the United States, because literally we've learned you could be tested on a Friday at 5 o'clock and get a negative result, and you can be positive by noon the next day on a Saturday and be spreading the virus. So we will test anyone who is symptomatic, and we will be asking our students to check their own symptoms every single day. That's true for our faculty and staff as well. It's another guard against spread, and it's another awareness of our community work to prevent the virus. Fresh air is key to keeping the viral load down in the air. Will efforts be made to ventilate classrooms, bathrooms, rooms, and buildings as much as possible? I'm going to brag again. Our physical plant team, along with many of our faculty in all of our classroom buildings and all of our residence halls and our dining hall, including the Sherrill Center and athletic facilities, all have met the standards for carrying enough HVAC, fresh ventilation, that is exhausted out through the exhaust on the roofs of the building so that our viral and air quality issues are not present on our campus at this point. And so we want you to know that we have attended to that over the couple of months during the summer when students were off campus and we only had our summer classes online. So I have been told, and I am very confident that I have been told accurately, that we are ready to accommodate students in all of our buildings. Our Justice Center was a problem, but I understand that that too has been corrected at this point. The next question, why should we send our students to experience the university when there's no university to experience? UNCA is a vital place. We care a lot about each other. We care a lot about how each other thinks and what the problems and issues of the day and historically have been. And so anytime we are gathered as a campus, there's a university to experience. That will be true with our student organizations. It's certainly true with classes. It's certainly true with research agendas that our faculty include our undergraduates in. And so there will be a university, and it will begin just 2 weeks from today. Are you considering any breaks in fees? Well, just over the last week, the Board of Governors has voted that tuition and fees will remain the same for each and every student across the system, regardless of the modality of instruction. So whether they're taking a class all online, but their other 3 classes are in person, or the reverse, or most of their classes are online, or some are hybrid, in all cases, the tuition and fees that we charge students and the way we package our financial aid is all suitable to continuing those same fees and tuition levels. That was a decision made by the UNC Board of Governors, and we will comply. Is UNCA taking on any cost-cutting measures that don't hurt the students to make up for mostly online learning? We have some things that budgetarily are calling for some constraint or no spend. One is travel. Our faculty usually have national and international travel where they're speaking or presenting papers, sometimes taking our students along. Travel has been stopped for obvious reasons. We want to keep people safe. It's also the time to hold that cost constraint, which saves us some money across our operating budget. It's also true that the purchasing of some computers and capital that come up as needs that we would otherwise be purchasing, we're putting on hold. We're putting on hold some of the social events here at the Chancellor's house because we cannot gather safely until we know that we have those protocols in place here and for all of our donors and parents and friends and community leaders. So we're holding back on that. We're likely to do some cutting of our non-personnel operating expenses as needed when we get our final enrollment figures and we know exactly what our revenue picture looks like. At this point, we are hoping that our numbers with enrollment and state appropriations will hold strong enough that we will not have any furloughs or layoffs on the campus. Every one of us, 17 chancellors in the system, are concerned about this. We continue to make some scenario plans available for our own help and to share with our faculty. So I would say we're doing cost restraint and some budget cutting, but nothing that will hurt the student experience or the faculty ability to teach and to do their research. We have a strong research agenda that our faculty work on, funded by a number of National Endowment for the Humanities, National Science Foundation, GlaxoSmithKline Foundation, and on and on. Those monies generally will continue as long as our faculty and our students are able to do those research projects together. I'm very bullish about how much our faculty will be able to do. Again, our protocols, which we are requiring and asking all of our community to abide, myself included, those are the protocols that will allow us to be fully engaged as the university that we are. Let me stop now, although I'll answer some of your questions in the chat as needed. Let me introduce again our provost, Dr. Garrick Campbell, who is in charge of all of our faculty, our academic work, our library, our career center, and so on. And he has some questions to answer that you've submitted, and then we'll both share the podium from here on. Okay?
Good evening, everyone. I'll just start by jumping into the questions that folks have shared with us. The first is, will juniors entering UNC Asheville fall 2020 semester have the choice of in-person versus online versus hybrid, or will these decisions be made for the student based on the classes they try and sign up for? The modality of the course is determined by the specific course. In particular, all students can go to the class schedule online, and I can post that link in the chat in just a moment. And you can look at the options. All students can look at the options there. There is a filter that one can use to choose either hybrid or online to see the subset of courses that are in that category. So students should feel free to do that and explore the possibilities there. Assuming students and professors use proper face coverings and social distance, why are not all classes allowed to be in person? I'll share a couple of things. First of all, the faculty who are teaching those courses in some cases have vulnerabilities or situations that would prevent them from being in the classroom themselves. So it was important for us to be able to provide faculty with the opportunity, where appropriate, where necessary, to be able to have the class, to be able to teach their courses online. So that's one important reason why not all classes were in person. Another is that we have done a lot of work to make sure that the campus, and in particular the classrooms, are appropriately spaced for the kinds of classes, for the kinds of enrollment that we need. Classrooms, physical classrooms that once had maybe 50 students, space for 50 students, had to have desks removed, or in some cases permanent seats were removed to make space and create social distance in those classrooms. That cut down on the size and ability of classes to exist on our campus. And so after having done that, we needed some social distancing. We needed fewer classes to be in person so that social distancing could take place. And so that was another reason why not all classes could be held in person. So together with those two things, we are now in a position where we have some online, some hybrid, and some in person. If all classes are online, why are students moving into residence halls? This goes back to something that Chancellor Cable's already indicated. And let me take a step back and make sure that I'm providing two possible ways I could imagine this question being asked. There are about 40% of our classes are currently in person. 30% of our classes are offered online, and about 30% of our classes are currently offered in a hybrid format. And there are a great many reasons for wanting to be in residence, even if some of those classes that a particular student might be taking are online. So first of all, I guess the first part of this is that not every class is online. We have this mix of about 40%, 30%, and 30%. But even if for any individual student, all of their classes are online, then we hope that there are reasons that students would want to be present. They have access to academic space that they would not otherwise have access to: labs, library, studio space. There's access to technology, Wi-Fi, and other resources on our campus. And so there are good reasons why a student might choose to stay on campus and have access to all of those resources, all of those campus spaces, even if all of their classes are online. Co-curricularly as well, there are lots of things that are going on. Vice Chancellor Bill Hager may be able to get into some of this, but we know that the students, the folks in student services have been thinking about and planning for months how to make sure that the student experience, though a little different, will be one that's exciting, that is enjoyable. And finally, this goes to the point that I think Chancellor Cable was making. Even with social distancing and other protocols, we expect students who are on our campus to be in conversation with each other, to find ways to work with each other, to have fun with each other. We know that it'll look different. We know that there are protocols that need to be in place. There needs to be social distancing. There need to be masks worn. But there will be those opportunities for students to engage each other. So in addition to being able to have access to the spaces, access to the resources, to engage in the kind of co-curricular planning that the folks in student services have planned, we know that we know that students will be looking forward to opportunities to engage each other, albeit in a slightly different way. So we're doing everything possible to ensure that everyone is going to be safe and healthy as possible in engaging. But we do see that there are lots of reasons why, even with an online course offering for any particular student, there are reasons to be on campus. Will students have the option of taking online classes while living at home? Is it possible for students to take a semester off but still remain enrolled at the university? students are in fact able to take online courses while living at home. If it happens to be the case that a student's set of courses are fully online, a student may make the choice to be at home. As I said just a moment ago, we certainly hope that students will consider coming to campus and taking advantage of all of the opportunities that we will be providing. But we also know that certainly that's a decision and a cost-benefit analysis that every student and every family will have to make. And so the short answer is yes, this is possible, but we certainly encourage students and families to consider sending students to the campus. The second half of that question, is it possible for students to take a semester off but still enrolled at the university? It is absolutely possible for a student to say, I will not enroll for a particular semester and come back the following semester. I can refer, we can maybe get folks the information about what the process is for that in the chat and make sure that that's something that folks can look into. I think that's all the questions that we had in advance. I know that there are a number of others that have come in since then, and we'll have time to get to that, I guess, a little bit later.
Thank you very much. We're going to move quickly to you, Bill, for the questions pre-submitted. And there's so many questions in the chat and comments. I want to try to get to those. So Bill, it's all yours for now, and then we'll move on.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chancellor, and good evening, everyone. Again, I'm Bill Hager, Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs. It's good to be with you. And for those of you I've seen before, it's good to see you again. I will go quickly, as the Chancellor mentioned, to those questions that came in advance, and then we'll try to get to as many in the chat as possible. Will our students be educated on how to form bubbles to protect themselves and their roommates and suite mates from contracting and spreading the virus, including no one but the room occupants allowed in anyone's residence hall room? So let me share a little bit about our expectations for students who are living on campus. We will be communicating with them regularly about our expectations. They will receive daily communications to check their symptoms, etc. Without a pandemic and in normal times, we begin the academic year with what we call mandatory hall meetings. And these are all of the residents who are in an area with one resident assistant, or RA. This year we'll be doing those remotely to avoid the large gathering. But in those meetings, our RAs and our professional staff will be going over with students what we regularly talk about as far as roommate agreements and suite mate agreements. They'll be very important during this year with COVID-19. We are treating our residence hall rooms and suites, which all of our residence halls are suite style or apartments. We're treating those rooms or suites as households, not unlike your own household, where they will they'll come to their own agreements about their separation and their wearing of face coverings. But once they leave the room and they're in the hallway or they're in the common areas or they're moving around campus, they are expected to wear that face covering and expected to keep that 6 feet of separation. We also have in all of our residence hall rooms and apartments, we have modular furniture, which can be moved around to create separation if the roommates desire that. And then also related to this question, I know it's been in the chat, questions about availability of singles. And I've checked with my staff during this meeting right now, and we still have some availability of singles if there are students who desire to change from a double room to a single. The second question was, where will students quarantine if they test positive for the virus? Does the university have a designated space for this? We do. We have designated a minimum at this time of 62 spaces in our residence halls. We have one of our governor's village buildings reserved for that, as well as a floor in another residence hall, and then also 3 guest apartments. We anticipate with some students who are choosing to cancel their housing because of a variety of reasons, including online classes, that we will have some spaces freed up for that as well. But we do have a plan for students who live on campus to be able to quarantine and be isolated on campus. If students live off campus, they will need to quarantine off campus. And that will be a decision that we will help them work through. And that may be to quarantine at their permanent home. That's always an option, whether a student is on or off campus. But at this point, our on-campus quarantine spaces are for our on-campus students. Obviously, if we have really extenuating circumstances, we can look at possible exceptions to that. But that is our plan right now. Question about meals. There's some in the chat, and there's a question also in the questions we got before this started. Can students get all meals to go from the dining hall and other campus locations? Yes. We have actually, if you have a returning student, for our new students, they won't know the difference, but for our returning students, we have redesigned the flow in Brown Dining Hall. And actually, once they walk in and go through a hand washing area and have a no-touch entrance to the facility, they will go down one of two paths, whether that's eat in or take out. And all of our retail establishments will be providing takeout as well. So if they prefer to take out, eat in their room. We have also increased the seating options outdoors as weather permitting, for more folks to sit outdoors for their meals as well. We have decreased the number of seats. We have decreased the capacity, and we will be asking students not to spend more than 30 minutes in our dining hall to make sure we can move people through efficiently. But one main way we'll be doing that is through the takeouts. So thank you for asking that question. Wouldn't it be in the interest of student health during the pandemic to encourage students to wear masks in their residence hall rooms during waking hours? Again, that will be up to your student and their roommate and what type of guidelines that they make for each other. But obviously, we are encouraging all students to be as safe as they possibly can and be responsible wherever they are, both on campus and off campus. Another question, has there been any thought to creating a commissary for students to reduce trips off campus on public transportation? That's an excellent question. We do have a limited number of retail items in our bookstore and in our retail dining establishments that go beyond just food, some other sundries that students may need. If they choose not to ride public transportation or one of our shuttles that goes off campus, the CVS is really within walking distance, about 5 or 6 blocks away from campus. But thank you for that question, man. We will look further into the opportunities to increase some retail options on campus for our students. So those are the questions that came to me in advance. We will try to get to some more before we're done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Sarah, let's turn to you and see what questions in the chat or comments that you want to give a shout out to. We'll try to deal with those.
Thank you, Chancellor Cable, and thank you all for the questions that you submitted on both the Google form and in the chat. Chancellor, I think we wanted to discuss athletics for a moment. A question came in about fall and spring athletics, workout practices, and I know our athletic director, Janet Cohn, is on this meeting right now.
Janet, let me turn all of that to you, if you would, please.
All right, thank you so much. Once again, for those parents on here who have a student athlete that's going to be attending in the fall, we actually have an update for all parents tomorrow at 5 o'clock, and I'll enter my email address on here when I get finished talking. If you email me, I'll make sure you get that link. We started transitioning our coaches and staff back to campus in June and early July. And actually, we have student athletes who are presently on campus, some living on campus actually, who have begun voluntary workouts and using our facilities. Been very optimistic and really excited about the protocols that we have in place. We're following NCAA Big South Conference protocols along with the university and the state and our county health department. So we are off to a good start. We'll continue to monitor that. We'll have other student athletes transitioning back in early August. Right now, fall championships have not been canceled by the NCAA nor by the Big South. we have set a date of September the 12th as our first actual competition. So we are still going to monitor that, and that certainly still could change as we go forward. But we're excited. We have over, 66 student athletes who are committed to come to campus this fall. And so we're really excited about getting them back. But once again, we continue to monitor that and got great feedback and input from the NCAA, the Big South, and obviously our local health officials have been very helpful, along with our doctors and sports medicine folks.
Thanks, Janet. Sarah?
So there are some questions for student affairs here. Dr. Hager, specifically, could you walk us through what happens if there's a positive case of COVID-19 on campus, and how would those students get their meals?
And, thank you, Sarah. So first of all, we will be encouraging, and I ask you please to encourage your students to first check their symptoms every day. And if they are experiencing any symptoms, or if they take their temperature and they have a fever, we want them to immediately call our health services, and one of our health services providers will do a phone assessment and then provide guidance for them, whether they need to be checked out in person, and we'll do a telephone assessment. So that will be first, and then they can be seen by our health services, and then it will be determined by the medical provider if their symptoms warrant a test. If they are tested, and if the provider thinks that they should be tested, then that student will go into quarantine. If a student goes into quarantine, or if they have to go into isolation because of a positive test, then there will be a variety of folks checking on them. Health services staff will check on them for medical reasons every day, and we will have student affairs staff who will deliver their meals. They'll still be able to order their meals from any of our dining outlets, so they will have input into what they would eat, and those meals would be delivered to their room. And then also any other needs they would have, we would work as a team. We have a care and crisis team that normally operates when there's not a pandemic, and if there's any unique needs that a student has besides that, they'll get them in touch with the right person to meet those needs.
Thank you. We have a question for you, Chancellor Cable. Some questions about why are we resuming in-person instruction? Is it a matter of finance, or is it a matter of health and safety and keeping students on campus?
The reason we are returning to our academic mission is that we are needed by hundreds of students. We anticipate having somewhere around 3,000 or 3,100 on our campus. Half of them will live in residence halls. Our faculty have missed our students have missed their faculty, particularly for our students at the junior and senior level. They've missed being able to do the academic work and research that they've been doing. So this is driven by the fact that we have a role to play in the education of the citizens of the state of North Carolina and all of our students who come from lots of different places. We do want to preserve the continued employability of our employees. We want a continuity of operations because we have so much work that we are doing that is worthy both in the teaching in the classroom, research in the lab, community service that we provide. And so we are a worthy and vital institution that almost all parties in this region have been urging all six of the institutions that are four-year residential institutions to open up. Now, no, we are not driven by the money. We are driven because so many of our students have longed to be back where they want to be and continuing their education toward their degree. That is the primary reason for opening. I do not have the decision to open or to not open. That rests with the UNC system. There are 17 institutions, some as large as Chapel Hill and NC State, and some smaller even in size than we are. We are monitoring our health protocols so strongly that it could be true, and we are waiting to learn from the system what that pivot metric would be, that we would be allowed to stay open even if some of the larger and more urban institutions would actually be moved to online. Those decisions will not be made at the campus level. They will be made after assessments of the protocols to keep individuals healthy and safe on our campuses. And so we are opening because we have a role to play that's absolutely very vital for our students and our faculty and staff, and because we are an educational institution and want our students, particularly those from vulnerable populations, to be able to get back to the work that they need to secure their college and university degree. This is not a mercenary effort. This is an effort because we have a job to do with our students, and that's the primary driver.
Thank you, Chancellor. Several questions for Provost Campbell. Provost Campbell, will the content be accelerated for fall classes since the semester is shortened? And could you also talk about the grading scale or structure for this fall semester?
So I'll start with the last. The grading will be the same. There will be no changes to the grading scheme, and so you know that's what that will be. The semester is about I think we have about 1 week less time in terms of the actual class time. And so I think we have typically 15 weeks in a semester and then exams. This semester we have 14 weeks and then exams. We do not, no one is accelerating the coursework in order to make sure that they are speeding up the classes. We do expect that students will be asked to perhaps engage in more creative and interesting work outside of the classroom, but we don't anticipate speeding up and trying to engage in more work during the course of the semester. We have encouraged faculty to think about alternate ways of doing assessments, different ways of engaging in creative work. We know that much of that is guided by the fact that there will be online learning in courses that did not ordinarily have that kind of work. So we're hoping to have more creative work, more creative asks of students, but not to speed things up.
Thank you, Provost Campbell. A few other questions. Will there be opportunities for students attending remotely to meet with professors? And how will those professors teaching virtual courses be held accountable for their live sessions opposed to just posting reading materials, for example?
So if the question is, can a student who's, let's say, taking a course remotely from a faculty member, let's say, find a moment to meet with that faculty member on campus at some point? That will depend a little bit on the circumstances of that particular faculty member. In some cases, that will not be possible, in part because the faculty member may actually be in teaching in the mode of online, predominantly because of a situation having to do with that faculty member. They may have a particular vulnerability or in the care of someone vulnerable, and so may not be able to engage in-person engagement in any way. In other cases, there are some faculty, many faculty, who may be teaching a mix of courses. They may have an online course, they may have a hybrid course and an in-person course. And in those cases, the individual faculty have worked out what their office hours and modes and type of engagement will be with students, and it will vary. We have encouraged faculty to make sure that they are thinking about both synchronous and asynchronous work. We have asked faculty to ensure that the classes that they offer have the same rich kind of intimate engagement that we expect out of our experience that we're offering in any semester, pre-COVID semester. We want to encourage students that if there are situations where they feel that they're not having the right kind of engagement, to please talk with the faculty member. That is the first step. Engage the faculty member. Let your case be known. If that does not create any kind of appropriate response in their students' minds, we want to encourage them to talk with the chair, have a conversation with the chair of the department. And if that's not the case, they're always welcome to contact my office at provost@unca.edu or a dean, and we can certainly investigate and look into what's going on in a particular class. But our faculty are particularly dedicated to making sure that they are providing a really strong academic experience, really strong learning environment, positive learning environment for their students. We take pride, a great pride in our teaching. And so I don't anticipate that would be the case. I certainly know that during the course of the spring semester, we had to migrate very quickly, and it was in some cases challenging for some faculty to create the kind of learning environment with that kind of quickness that really rose up to that level. But we're really confident. Many of our faculty have taken courses, have really engaged and dived into the possibilities of how to do online teaching, how to engage online students online in much deeper ways. And so we're very confident in our faculty being able to do that.
Thank you, Provost. Two more questions for you. Could you please talk about whether or not the library and other common study spaces will be open? And then any updates on the completion date for the art buildings?
So I don't know, and I do see that our CFO, John Pierce, is on the line. I'm not sure of the date. If we have a date for the completion of the art building, I think that is still in the works, but I'll let him correct that in a moment if there are any corrections to that. I'm sorry, what was the first part of the question, Sarah?
Will the library and other common spaces be open for study purposes?
So absolutely they will be. They'll be open. In some cases, they may have slightly different hours than they might normally have. We certainly want to make sure that we're controlling certainly big spaces like the library from having them sit open with very few folks. So for example, Saturday morning, we know that there are very few students who use the library on an early Saturday morning. We may not open until later on in Saturday afternoon. Those are the kinds of decisions that we're going to be making. But certainly the library will be open. Highsmith will be open. Various other spaces will be open, and we'll have folks able to, we'll have some folks in some of those spaces able to supervise certain spaces. So things like certain lab spaces or studio spaces we know have been open later in the evening and in some odd hours. Some of that will take place, but again, hours will be modified to make sure that we're not leaving open spaces that are essentially sitting open with very few users.
Thank you. I'm not sure if John Pierce would want to chime in about the art building. John, you could.
Sure, I can do that, Sarah. We're working very hard to have the art building, Owen Hall, open for the fall of 21. It's going to depend on funding coming from the state, and we are working very hard to try to secure that funding. We will need to get that funding by December of this year for Owen to be open next fall.
Thank you. And I know we just have a couple of minutes left here. I'd like to leave the floor open to Chancellor Cable for some closing remarks.
Thanks again, Sarah, for leading this conversation. And I'm grateful to all of the parents on the line and any students who might be in with you in this. Let me share with you that this is a very difficult time. It's a puzzle. We believe we've got the puzzle pieces sort of in the right spot, putting health and wellness and safety and security of our students and our faculty and staff as job one. We're taking every measure that we know to take with the advice of health and CDC professionals and in consort with literally scores of higher education institutions, not just UNC system schools, but also others, about what protocols they're adopting. along the lines of many of the questions that you've asked. We're going to be monitoring this situation for where we get it right and where we didn't do enough or where we did too much. This is not just a new normal, this is mostly new to all of us. I appreciate your good faith and your assuming positive intent about what all of us at the institution are doing. I know one gentleman has said, please don't brag, and so I won't brag any further. But I am very proud of the work that we've been able to do because we're a team and we do it with a lot of good conscience about how we can put our students and faculty and staff first. I promise you to be transparent and to offer to our parents regular communications. We hope that will include any revealing of cases on campus and what we're doing about it, always protecting the privacy of anyone who should contract the virus. But I promise you open communication and telling you the evolution of how we're going to move through this semester. When we learn what any pivot point metrics might be that would prompt us for a short or for the balance of the semester to go to online only, we'll do another town hall for sure. We're doing these with community leaders, with our own faculty and staff, with our donors, with alumni and our alumni board, with people who are very supportive of the institution because they hire a lot of our graduates right here in the Asheville and Buncombe community and the surrounding region. So we're trying to communicate, and your questions help to shape the things that we may not have thought about and we need to attend to. So thanks for adding all of the comments, even the negative ones that have appeared in the chat. We welcome hearing from you directly. So I thank you again for your time. We will do the best with the young children and young adults that you send us. And we are looking forward to welcoming them back to campus. If you are asking questions of people from whom you're not getting the answers that you need to get as promptly as you should, the people on this call tonight, Dr. Bill Hager, Dr. Kai Campbell, myself, the athletic director, Janet Cohn, our CFO, John Pierce. We are here to respond to your questions. Pick up the phone and call us. Be in touch with us and let us know what's on your mind and let us try to help if we can and when we can. I have great faith that we should move forward and get back to our work despite this difficult puzzle and these uncertain times. We have young people really counting on us to get back to the work that we do know how to do, now just in a new and safer environment, we believe. Thanks for your faith in us. We appreciate your interest. Thanks for your time, and be in touch if there are additional ways that we can answer your questions and concerns. Thank you very, very much for joining us tonight. Thanks, everyone.